Sports Card Podcast, where we tackle the hobby's hottest topics in depth to help you navigate the sports card landscape and enjoy the hobby we all love. Here's your host, John Newman.
Hey everybody, before we start this week's episode of Hobby Quick Hits, I want to welcome aboard a new sponsor, Mojo Break. I know Dan, Doug, and the guys there at Mojo Break personally. One of the most trusted companies in the industry. Happy to have them affiliated with Hobby Quick Hits. They'll be sponsoring this show and part of the Sports Card Nation family. And so, they offer a great selection of wax by the box, by the case, breaks. They have a store in Santa Clara. And so we're going to run their ad right here, their commercial, learn a little more about them. On the backside of the commercial, we'll start the show. And in the commercial, you're about to hear, they're offering a great discount code for 10% off anything from mojobreak.com. So definitely check those guys out. Again, some of the best guys we have in the industry. Happy to have them aboard, to say the very least. Hey folks, wanted to tell you about the best place to get some of your sealed sports card wax products. Great selection and some of the lowest prices on the web. MojoBreakShop.com is that place. Whether it's a box or a whole case, they're your guys, and they ship around the world right to your door. The Mojo Break name is one of the most trusted in the hobby. From sports cards to Pokemon, their selection can't be beat. They offer daily deals and pre-orders. Who won first place at this year's Topps Rip Party? None other than Mojo Break. Their prices are already great, but here's a way to save even more money. Use the code QUICKHITS, that's QUICKHITS, for 10% off anything on MojoBreakShop.com. They also have a full-service card shop in Santa Clara, California. So if you're in the area, stop by. They're open 7 days a week, so check them out at MojoBreakShop.com. Welcome to another edition of Hobby Quick Hits. Today, I've said on both of my shows that I do, this show and Sports Card Nation, I've talked about how, you can pivot. Something's not working for you, you don't enjoy it, maybe get priced out, things change, you don't like it anymore. You can always pivot and stay in the hobby and do different things. And so today, I'm going to talk about kind of myself a little bit instead of, preaching a little bit from the pulpit, which I sometimes I'm guilty of. I'm going to kind of talk about my own personal kind of pivoting, if you will. It's not a true pivot because I'm already doing kind of what I'm just going to do more of. I'm just going to kind of move over more to that side of the aisle. And so for me, that's been doing this a long time. I've always done some vintage and some modern. I've done both, but it's always usually been sort of leaning towards the modern side. Probably 70-30, 80-20. The most time where I've done more vintage was during my store years from 1992 to 97, 98, where I wanted to carry more vintage for the store, for people coming in. And then when I started doing shows, I kind of tried to get the vintage stuff as much as stock it as much as I can. But let's be real. Vintage is harder to acquire in quantities compared to modern. You can always buy singles or graded specimens, but to buy sort of quantities, generally you have to buy lesser grade cards. And nothing wrong with those. I enjoy those as well. But recently this year, I've really sort of, just thought about it, and it's always had a special place for me. As that kid that opened up that first pack in 1979, which obviously wasn't vintage at the time. And some may even argue that 1979 cards are still don't qualify as vintage. I think they are. But there's always going to be a soft place in my heart for it. And I have some. But I really kind of this year, around January, February, just decided I was going to start to look more to acquire more of that. Some rookies, some more stars, and I've been doing that slowly but surely. I started buying more exhibit cards. Something at one time, if you heard the exhibit episode of Hobby Quick Hits recently, you know that at one point I had a heavy disdain for them, and I've done a 180 on my opinion on exhibits, and I've added quite a few along those lines. And for those out there that want to get into vintage and maybe the price level kind of scares you away, take a look at exhibits. A good way to kind of dip your toe in the water, acquire some vintage era stars without the hefty price tag. The cards, if you don't know about exhibits, the cards usually don't have stats on the back. You want to be careful. There's some fakes out there. Listen to that episode to kind of learn what to look for. They're oversized, so they're not going to fit in your normal top loaders or 9-pocket binder pages. But if you're looking for an affordable way to get into vintage, take a look at the exhibits. And I've acquired more of those this year, and I'm still acquiring them. And so, kind of the beginning of this year, I just said, man, I kind of want to move more that direction. What was it? I just, let's be real. Like, as much as I do love the modern market, and I'm being a sports fan, and I'm watching today's players and doing fantasy leagues and keeping tabs on that, there's just a gluttony of a rookie today, right? He's got 20 different just Bowman rookies, right? Bowman Platinum, Bowman Chrome, Bowman Draft, regular Bowman, right? It's just a player today will have 50 different rookies, and there's something about the vintage era where even at most a player's going to have 1, 2, maybe 3 at the most, and it makes it easier and to really kind of build that inventory or build that collection. And so I just came back. I'm recording this just as I came back from my trip to Texas, which was wonderful, by the way. If you haven't heard, listen to the review show that I did on Sports Card Nation. Great trip. Did a lot of different things and had a lot of fun. Tired when I got back, but sleep when you're dead, as they say. But so had a lot of fun on that trip. But walking that show floor, and I don't know, there's quite a bit of tables. I think 400 to 500 was what was advertised, and just seeing, you see all the new stuff, and it just sort of blurs in. It's all sort of seems the same, and it's really made me sort of appreciate vintage to another level that I probably should have already, honest to God. But and so it just sort of cemented what I really was feeling inwardly. And I went to that show with vintage on my mind. I kind of said that on my podcast even before I made the trip, that my goal was to acquire some vintage. I did acquire some vintage cards, not as much as I planned. Some of the prices were not great, if you will, but I did buy, out of what I bought, I would say about 80% were of the vintage variety, and kind of where my interests are leaning. And one of the last things I did before getting on the plane to come back to Syracuse from Dallas is my friend Michael Moynihan, baseball card collector on YouTube. Awesome dude. One of those hobby good guys I talk about, advocates for the hobby, ambassador for the hobby. And, he's been on the show, Sports Card Nation. And, on that episode, he said how he was doing, some modern. And then he realized, one of the guys he kind of super collected was Josh Hamilton. And we all know how that sort of turned out. And he really went to heavy vintage. And, he invited, when he heard I was coming down to Dallas, he said, man, if you got time, open invitation, come over, see my card room, see what he calls the Beast. It's a wooden, card holder that holds all his graded cards and slabs that him and his father made by hand. Beautiful, by the way. After seeing it now, he said, hey, if you can make some time, you got an open invitation. And when you get that sort of invitation and you see his videos on his YouTube channel, by the way, follow him and subscribe to get the opportunity to see, it's awe-inspiring via YouTube video, but to see, when you get an invitation to see it up close and personal, you don't say no. And so myself and Brad Bethune, Texas Card Dude, basically before I had to head to the airport and get on the plane to head back to New York, we went to Mike's house, and I'll say thank you on the air here and appreciate I did that in person, obviously too. But just awesome collection, and I left there, and on the way to the airport, I left there and I said I want to do something similar. Now, his collection is jaw-droppingly awesome, insane. Not going to be able to replicate that. I'm a realist. I'm not fooling anybody there. But what he's doing, just so you kind of give you a background. Again, check him out on YouTube, and he has a podcast, a great one, The Golden Age of Vintage. Highly recommend it. Subscribe, and listen to that. And but what Mike's doing is getting a graded card, every Topps card, Topps or Bowman of every Hall of Famer graded, and quite a task. But here's the thing: he's between 70 and 80% completed of that, and that, I don't know, that's crazy to even attempt that, let alone be that far into it and that close to it. So I'm not going to be able to do that. But what I do want to do is get the rookie cards of a lot of the Hall of Famers in graded form. Maybe in some cases, probably on lower grades, 2, 3s, maybe if it's a really expensive card, even a 1, a 1.5. Maybe some of the newer Hall of Famers, the Younts and Brents, maybe 6s, 7s, and 8s, and that. But I want to get, I don't here's the thing, you've heard me say this before if you've listened to me, I don't PC a lot of stuff, but I kind of want to start doing a little more PC. And I said, if I'm going to PC something, it's got to be vintage. I really don't want to put away a lot of modern stuff. Let's maybe some Steelers, some Rangers, and Jackie Robinson is a PC, Mean Joe Green. But I wanted to, do something that wasn't going to be too easy, but also wasn't going to be too hard. And so I kind of, on the way to the airport, I said, some of the stuff, some of these cards I already have. It's not like I'm starting from scratch. And I just said, I want to start getting some of the Hall of Fame rookie cards graded, like he's sort of doing, but he's doing every card issued in their career, Topps or Bowman. I'm not going to do that. I'm just looking to do it with their key Topps or Bowman rookie card. And so that's what I'm going to start to do. And so I sell, I do make sales, and what I'm going to do is maybe each week try to add to that task, the Hall of Fame graded rookies. Again, I have a start on some of this, but I want to fill in some of the blanks. So the first thing I did, I'm not going to read off every name for sake of time. The first thing I did is sat down and wrote a list of the guys I want, if I don't have them already, the guys I would want to add to that collection. Now, you're not going to see like a name like Mantle, the 51 Bowman. It's a card Mike has. It's awesome. I got to hold it and look at it. But for me, even in a lesser poor grade, that thing is very expensive. I'm never going to say never, but I'm not going to write that on my list at this point. And so, guys like Banks made the list. Spahn, Willie Mays, same thing as sort of the Mantle. Killer Brews on my list. Yaz, which is a card I've owned probably 6-7 times in my hobby career, and I've sold each and every time. Now I want to add one and not sell it. And so this is what I'm undertaking. Rome's not going to be built in a day. This is going to take, years. It may always be an ongoing thing as new Hall of Famers get elected in, as I add even some guys to the list that I didn't write initially. I didn't write like a Catfish Hunter, whose rookie card's actually very affordable, but just not my favorite guy, let's say. But, I might just wind up getting, it's a cheap card. I might just pick it up without it being on the list. So there's always, you can go off script, so to speak. And so I made a list. I believe there was 40, 50 players on my list. I believe there's 300-something Hall of Fame baseball players. So you can see, I got 1/6 of the list. Now, many of those in the Hall are players from the 1800s, early 1900s, Jimmy Fox, Babe Ruth types, Ty Cobbs, where that card's not going to be in the budget again today, And so I'm not going to put him on the list today. Now, someday, when things change, you can always add them after the fact as you fill in with the initial players. And so that's what I've started doing. I've got a lot of saved searches on my eBay account. I'm a big user of MySlabs, buyer and seller, and so I've been kind of cross-referencing, what they're bringing on MySlabs to buy it nows on eBay to try to get the best deals. And if you follow me on Sports Card Nation social media and Hobby Quick Hits, you'll probably see me start to maybe post these cards as I acquire them and just kind of show them off a little bit. So it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun to, to do something a little more different. Not that I've never done vintage before. I have, but really starting to focus more on that side than I ever have before. And that's the lesson to me in this episode, if you're listening, is you can always change the direction you go. It's your choice. You're the CEO of your hobbyverse, and you get to decide. You don't have a board of directors that you need to convince to pass what direction you want to go. You are the board of directors, and so this is what I'm undertaking. This is what I'm going to do. And again, Rome wasn't built in a day. It's going to be a slow process. My goal is really, on average, to add 1 or 2 of these cards a week. And some of these cards are going to be, $60, $80. Some of these cards are going to be, $500, $600 potentially. And some of them are going to hit the 4-figure mark. $1,000, between $1,000 and $2,000. And so it's going to be, when I have that discretionary income. Maybe I had a huge sales week on the Newman Sports Cards side where now I have that extra to go and make one of those bigger card purchases. And that's going to be the fun of it, is kind of, the yin and yang. It was a good week. I can sort of go for a bigger card, or it was an okay week and I got to temper down and maybe spend a couple $100 rather than four figures. And it's going to be fun. And I'm sort of, someone might ask me, are you phasing out modern cards? Are you kind of like trade? You want to get rid of all those and then go, all vintage. That's not what I'm doing. But what I am saying is, I'm going to be really buying at this point more what people would call vintage era cards than modern. Don't forget, like I said, I still have Newman sports cards. I still am a Montgomery 582 member. We'll be buying this, that stuff. Much of it I resell to pay for it, and we've seen what that stuff's done, and so then I'm going to use that really to fund some of these bigger cards I plan on acquiring. You might ask, well, all right, John, you acquire these. You get an Ernie Banks rookie. You get, maybe you get a Hank Aaron rookie, a lesser grade. Well, what's the end game? That I don't know. I've talked about that just in cards in general. Where do your cards go when something happens to you? And I don't know. It's something you probably should think. I probably should think about more. But when you're acquiring these cards, you're not thinking about that in that moment. So I'm going to have fun with this. I'll call it a project, if you will. I'm going to have fun with this project. I don't know how fast or not fast it's going to happen. I don't have any sort of benchmarks or goals as far as you have to have 30 off to your list of 50 by the end of 2021. I don't have any of that. I'm just going to play it by ear, take it 1 week at a time. I'm looking at it in like week forms. Each week I'll try to add at least one of those 50. So if I use that ratio, right, we're already we're in June here. If I use that ratio, one a week, that leaves about 25. I should knock down, half of that list of the 50 names that I did write down. Now, if I have a week where I knock off 2 or 3 cards in that week, then I get closer to that goal of 50. But if I don't do it by the end of 2021, I'm not looking at as like a benchmark or a failure. If I add one card all year, it's one card that I want to add, and I'm going to have fun with it. No pressure. It's going to be fun to see kind of what order I get certain cards in. It'll be fun, sort of. eBay was sort of getting sort of stale with what I was kind of looking for a lot of on the modern side, and so this will be. I think it'll reignite some passion. I'm not saying I lost any, but it'll sort of invigorate me in a different sort of way. And again, I think that's the message in this episode is, and maybe it's the other way for you. You could go any way you want. Maybe you have vintage and you want to do modern. It's a two-way street. So, maybe you don't do auto cards, certified auto cards. Maybe you want to do through the mail autos and you never tried it yet. You can pivot and do anything you like if you put your mind to it. You're the boss of your hobby, and so do whatever your heart leans you in what direction. You'll enjoy it. It'll keep it fresh. If maybe you lost a little passion, it'll kind of put that bloom back on the rose, if you will. So that's what I'm doing. I thought I'd share a little bit of that insight with you, and it's going to be fun. And follow us on social media to see what and if I get. With that being said, I'll bid you adieu. Thanks for listening. Stay safe. Stay well. We'll see you next time. Little addendum to this episode, everyone. Mike Moynihan's podcast is called Golden Age of Cardboard. Golden Age of Cardboard. Go download that, subscribe. I kept calling it Golden Age of Vintage. It's Golden Age of Cardboard. I think you would have found it either way, but I want to be factually correct. And he's baseball collector on YouTube, not baseball card collector. Baseball collector on YouTube. Go subscribe. He does some great content on the audio and the visual side. That's what happens when you record an episode when you're jet lagged from a trip. but I wanted to get that factually correct. So there you go. I also want to say, if you're listening to this on the day of release, I hope you're enjoying your Memorial Day holiday with your family, friends, or whoever you choose to spend it with. And remember the reason we get to enjoy not only the hobby, but life and all the things we like to pursue and passions we like to enjoy. Somebody, in the service laid their life down so we can have our freedoms. And take at least some point of this day and think about that. So with that being said, we'll see you in a week. We're going to give out our social medias, and we'll see you next week. Hey folks, thanks for listening to the show. Wanted to give out our social media links where you can follow the show even when you're not listening to it. On Twitter, we are at Hits Hobby, HitsHobby, HITSHOBBY. On Instagram, we are at Hobby Quick Hits Podcast, at Hobby Quick Hits Podcast, all one word. Our website is www.sportscardnation.net. Look for the link to Hobby Quick Hits. You'll find us there. And you can always text us on our text line, area code 315-491-0239.
In case I don't see ya, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.